Under sunny skies here at Hamilton Golf and Country Club, wrapping up the RBC Canadian Open. Jason Logan of SCOREGolf with Canadian press reporter Chris Johnston once again. And Chris, Scott Piercy, the champion this week, didn't do a lot on Sunday, but the two leaders coming into this round didn't do much of anything, so Scott Piercy did enough. How would you assess him as this year's champion?
Well, he certainly learned to love this course. It was one that maybe he didn't think would suit his game this week as being a bit more of a bomber, but he managed to get it done. I think the run of 4 straight birdies he managed on the front 9 on really the more scoreable holes on this course. First got him on top of the leaderboard, and then he did about just what he had to get it done from there on in. The chip in on number 15 from the shadows of the trees there stands out probably as the shot that got him this tournament done. And it was really a 3-way race down to the end, and I didn't think he was going to be the one to do it, but he was the one who got it done.
Well, speaking of that three-way race, Robert Garrigus had a chance to make birdie on the 18th hole with a medium-range putt, I guess you would call it. William McGirt had a chance to save par after he put in his approach shot in the bunker, had probably a 20-footer. A couple of poor efforts, really, though, with the championship on the line, both guys coming up short. Do you think that was a case of nerves, or was that a case of a tough 18th hole with a tough green?
Well, I mean, it was the toughest hole on the course, 18. So, I mean, it wasn't yielding a lot of birdies anyway, which is what Garrigus would have had to do to force a playoff. And, I thought he hit 2 good shots in there and missed the putt. And that was kind of the story of his day, really. Didn't have the putter rolling like we've seen to get him that 54-hole lead. And, when it comes to William McGirt, he said he had a bit of a strange side hill lie with his second shot, dumps it in the bunker. And I think really if you saw nerves from him, probably that bunker shot I would say was below average, and certainly his attempt at putting, he left it well short. And it really wasn't the way he wanted to finish. But this is a guy never been in the final group, on the weekend at a PGA Tour event, and really handled himself quite well given that, finished second place. I'm sure he'll take that.
Yeah, speaking of Garrigus, a guy who absolutely bombs it, makes a ton of birdies out there. At one point, 13 straight pars. I bet he hasn't made 13 straight pars since he was a junior golfer. All right, just wrapping up the Canadian story. 5 Canadians made the cut. In the end, it was Saskatchewan's Graham Dillette who finished as low Canadian. Albin Choi finished as a low amateur, the only amateur to make the cut, in fact. But it wasn't really a great week for the Canadians. None of them finished high up on the leaderboard. Overall, from a Canadian perspective, how would you describe the 2012 RBC Canadian Open?
Well, I mean, outside of Albin Choi, this is obviously a learning experience for this guy, and it's only his second PGA Tour event. I mean, it was really a little bit disappointing, I think. I got the sense in speaking with both David Hearn and Graham Dillette that they were disappointed that their best games didn't show up, in what is one of their biggest weeks of the year. Outside of if one of those guys was getting a major, this is about as good as it gets, and they just didn't feel like they had their good stuff. I mean, for Graham Dillette, he called it a consolation prize getting that Rivermead Cup, but obviously tying for 56 doesn't do a lot for him, because obviously he's had much better finishes on the PGA Tour, and he was after another trophy, I'm sure, when he arrived here.
Yeah, no doubt. Neither one of those guys in action next week. Graham Dillette going to Alaska on a fishing trip with friends. I'm sure he'll have a great time to sort of decompress after this week. David Hearn home to spend some time with his baby daughter, who was born in June. So that is the story this week from Hamilton Golf and Country Club, wrapping up the 2012 RBC Canadian Open. Your champion once again, Scott Piercy.